Like schooling your friends. I love it. So do you think like it's very much part of your lifestyle now?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, like, definitely, I'd say that, that I'm more aware of my body, and therefore when I'm in some sort of pain, like I feel like I'll sit down and do some exercises which are kind of conducive, and they're like, it's like they don't seem like difficult exercises, but you know that they're working, right? So even just standing on the slant board is part of my sort of normal week now. And if I'm watching TV, I'd rather just stand on the slant board than right. So I think that would be the easiest way of me describing it. There are many days when I'll just be like feeling like, okay, I need to have a break, kind of, let's say just before bed, and I'll do like 3 exercises because it'll just calm me down and not really increase my heart rate, but like it's a form of, like some people would say, a form of meditation before you go to bed. So
it's actually a nervous system down regulation, because if you think about it, the amount that we focus on the breathing aspects when we are in a posture exercise, because the breathing helps us relax more. The breathing helps us focus on what it is that we're intending through that exercise. But yeah, I hear that a lot actually, and it's helped people sleep better.
Yeah. So what's good is that when you learn the exercises, so the 2 weeks, right, it allows you to not then switch on your phone or your computer, and you just sort of do it. So it's not like, like you're following, because when you're following, then what happens, sometimes you get distracted, someone calls you or something happens, right? So that's kind of, so in that way, I think it is become more and more part of my daily routine. I'd say what I still don't do, which I would like to do more of, is like warming up. And then you're doing warming up exercises. So like, I know that when I'm playing golf, for example, I'll do a few things that will start off my golf game, like just the arm circles and a few other things, which are easy to do. But I don't necessarily, and that's partly my fault in the sense that I haven't learned a routine that makes sense, right? It's like just.
Yeah. I think for me personally, my warm-up varies on predominantly how I feel when I wake up and what I've done leading up to that golf day or that paddle morning or paddle afternoon or whatever it's going to be. That's the first thing. The second is time-based. So if I haven't got much time, let's say I'm between clients and I'm going to pop out all of a sudden on a Saturday morning to catch my midday tea time, I know I'll probably be short on time. So what I do is, like you do before bed, I just pick the ones that come to me. So it could be down dog, cat cow. It could be a quick 5 minutes of static back and then arm circles. It could be the ankle stuff. Whatever literally your body feels like it needs to do, it will just do that in order to warm up.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of things to like bear in mind. I personally, I think if you're regular during the week, you'll find that actually your warm up isn't as crucial as it would be if you haven't done anything during the week.
Yeah, so I think that's true. And then I'd say that the other part that has become more routine is when I travel. And so if I'm staying in a hotel, generally, like, I won't have much time. So when I wake up, I'll do a lot of ankle stuff. I'll do a lot, the foot ones are easier, which is lying down and doing the foot exercises.
Minimal equipment.
Yeah, so those ones I'll do. I may take my strap and use that, and that's it. So that's quite a good thing. I've been trying to do that. So it's just sort of like, it allows you like half an hour in the beginning of the day and half an hour after at the end of the day, or if you get time there. Yeah.
So I'd love to track back a little bit, because I think it's important, like, for everyone to just kind of know who you are, what you do, your personality, that sort of thing, so that we can link why we're talking about this stuff and why this program's like helped you so much. So yeah, how about we start there a little bit as well?
Okay, so where do I start? My name, Sachin Dajani. But Well, let me give you an easy synopsis. First of all, I'm 46, so I kind of feel like I'm very active, but I still have some time left to do more activity, but not necessarily everything I want to do. So I've become much slower on the football pitch, but I still enjoy playing a lot of sport. I work at a desk and generally I travel a lot, so I'm kind of quite busy as a person. But then I get in whatever sport I can whenever I want to, right? So on a Monday, I'd be playing football every Monday, more or less. I play golf on every Saturday. And then in the week, if I can get a paddle game or a hockey game, I'll do the same, right? So that means that I don't like going to the gym. I like team sports. I like all of these other things that basically are more social than team personal, right? And that's just me.
It's a bit like me. I was talking to my sister about it today, actually.
Yeah. So I do go to the gym at times, but I prefer not to. And then the thing that I'd say that I know I've noticed, and this is from the age of 30 or even earlier, but 30, I'd say, so 16 years, is like football games, for example, are take a toll on my knees for sure. The first time I ever noticed it was probably when I was 29, when I was climbing up the 3 peak challenge I did. And then the second peak, I was coming down and I felt my knees and I couldn't actually walk properly. So I ended up taking a Nurofen and then actually finishing. But since then, I've never really done anything about my knees. But I've just carried on doing what I've been doing, right? And then I went to see a couple of specialists, and the specialists all told me quite nicely was that, look, you don't need any surgery. You just need to strengthen your muscles around your knees as well as like, the way that you do things. So that was quite good, but it also requires work. And I didn't really know what I was doing. So I'd gone to a physio to try and figure that out. And there was a lot of other little things that I was thinking about.
And they all predominantly focused on the knee, yeah?
Generally, yeah. Definitely I would be focused on the knee, nothing else really. And that's because that's where it hurts, right?
Yeah.
And then actually, I think I'd say that the first time, like I kind of tried a couple of things about the knee, and it wasn't surgery based, so it was always like, okay, I have to do some work on it. And the first time I sort of said, well, okay, well, I came across yours. A lot of it was on the Instagram feed, but it wasn't necessarily. I didn't think about it as a problem for my knee. I thought about it because I've got hunchback shoulders, as well as like, like I know I slouch, right? So I was thinking, oh well. So I used to watch it and thinking, okay, fine. Well, as much as your posts were not only about slouching, that's the first thing that caught my eye. And then actually, I happened to talk about it to Bhavnisha and to Ketan, and Ketan was just thinking about joining. So I said to him, well, if you join, let me join as well. And that's kind of like how it kind of happened, right?
And did you ever sorry, just to interrupt, did you ever make the connection that your upper body could have something to do with why you're feeling the pressure in the knees, number one, but interestingly, usually always when you're on a downhill movement rather than on an uphill movement?
Right. So I would not have made that connection, right? Like there is nothing that taught me before that my upper body has something to do with my knees, right? I always thought my knees were weak and my muscles around my knees need to strengthen. So initially I thought my knees were weak and needed surgery. The second thing I thought was I needed to improve my muscles around my knee. And that's kind of what my thinking was. So when I joined the program, it was more because when I spoke to you, as well as then obviously Bhavnish was one, but like I kind of realized, okay, well then this can help my knee. That's kind of where it first started. So then it was just trusting that it may, right? It was nothing else but trusting that it may. But then after that, I'd say that after doing the various exercises, then actually only more recently I realized how the impact on your upper body has on your knee itself, right? And in particular, I never knew that my ankle is the issue, right? Not even my knee, right? And now I'm really conscious of the fact that, like I can feel my ankle. I'm like, gosh, that is the problem. It's not my knee. And then
And
of course,
also, let's just talk a little bit about what's led you there is the balance tests, would you say? And the actual sort of posture audit that we've done, because I think that in itself was quite a revelation for you, where
yes,
we had you standing, and in order for you to immediately, and I remember this in a single session, you went from feeling your knee and your foot to at the end of a session not feeling your knee or your foot, and the whole focus of that session was upper body,
yeah,
right? And you were just like, what on earth is going on like right now? I don't understand.
that I agree, because that was only recently as well, right? That was only about a
Yeah.
month ago. Whereas like my initial posture audit, the first thing that I remember you telling me, which I didn't actually know, was that my right leg is weaker than my left leg. And you could tell from just the muscles behind my calves effectively. And I couldn't believe it because I'm right footed, right? And so then that I was like, well, I do everything with my right foot. I can't kick a ball with my left foot, right? And but then I use my left foot to balance basically, and that's partly why it's stronger. And the reason
Yeah.
why is I don't have balance on my right foot, right? And so balance is a big deal in a sense that I know that I've had real bad balance from the day I can remember. But this is kind of why the upper body then is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the reason.
And I think this is just an education point, I think, for a lot of people, is that even though we have a dominant side, it's crazy to believe and actually see for yourself that a dominant side can be your dysfunctional side, right?
Yeah.
We're always told if you're right-handed, the wear and tear is going to happen more, for instance, in the right side, but it may not be the case at all. It may be that your body has developed certain muscular patterns, muscle memory, to eventually start using the other side way more.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So that was quite a revelation, to be honest. I'd say first up, and then yeah, I'd say that over the course of the first, the first sessions that I did was actually understanding my pain points. So if I don't know if you remember, but like if I tell you my knee's hurting, I wouldn't be able to tell you whether it's the left part or the right part, or my ankle's hurting and where. And now, like before, it would just be my ankle's hurting, whereas now I kind of
Generally, yeah.
yeah, like I feel like I know where it's hurting, which is like that's just awareness, and that's partly because of doing exercises because you're always kind of like focusing on those areas. So
Yeah.
that was another big thing for me. And then you can feel it, like I feel now when I need to do something, I need to do an exercise. I can feel that I have to do this.
Yeah.
And that's more recent though. That's kind of more in the last month.
And is that more like it comes from like a craving that your body feels so much better after doing it, and that's what's incentivizing you to want to do more?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think so you feel a bit stiff or you feel like something's hurting or whatever, and you know that
Rusty. I like to call it rusty because for me, that's
rust,
kind of how I start feeling.
rusty's good. So like say for example on Tuesday morning after my football game. So football finishes quite late. So I come and try and do some stretching out afterwards. Tuesday morning, generally, I am very stiff, right? So just doing some simple things on the floor and the mat actually helps so much. And that's kind of
Take me back to, I'm gonna say like 5 months ago. Was stiff painful before Tuesdays? Because I
yes,
remember you saying
yeah,
that you'd
Tuesday,
wake up and you'd be in pain,
yeah,
and now that seems to have switched to stiff.
correct. So that would be pain, and I would need to like gingerly walk down the stairs
Mm,
and do all of that, right? So like um and then actually like yeah, it was painful. It felt good because you felt like you've done exercise, but it was painful.
mm,
As now it feels good still, but it's not like the pain it was. I mean, sometimes it could be there, but
yeah.
really
Is it the
speaking,
type of soreness you feel after a really good workout now?
yeah. And on Tuesday morning,
Amazing.
like I can actually go for a walk in the morning and I'm not worried.
Yeah. So now there's less interruption as well. You're not feeling like you're set back just because you're doing football or playing football, which you love. and now you're in a sort of no pain, more gain mindset and an actual lifestyle of, okay, I know what it feels like to be in pain, and I know what it feels like to be using my body in a way that maybe my muscles are fatigued because I'm using the muscles that I probably never could before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in terms of your confidence and body trust when you play football, how much has that changed?
I suppose I'm not sure actually. I don't think like I'd say that like I'm hoping that I could say that my balance is better, etc. I don't know if I feel that yet, right?
Okay.
Uh, but I feel like I can. I don't feel, I feel like I can give it all my all. I'd say my biggest
Mm.
advantage is that if someone asked me, because there's a game on Tuesdays for hockey, if someone asked me, do you want to play on Tuesdays? Usually before I'd say, if I'm playing on Monday, I'm not going to play on Tuesday. Whereas now I feel like I could still play on Tuesday. That's kind of the advantage I have right now.
Continuity. I like it. And in terms of how you've been taught to work out, maybe all your sort of fitness knowledge, how is this different?
I think it's entirely different in the sense that like first and foremost, like it's a lot more focus on the smaller muscles, right? And also on smaller movements, let's say, right? So it's very different in a sense that it's much more about form, and it's much more about focusing on the right areas. So that's very important because you can see the difference after one of our phone calls. I mean, not phone calls, after the hour session or the 2 hour sessions. I think those make a big difference because you can be doing it wrong, and you realize that actually, gosh, man, how come my foot shakes when I'm online with you, and when I'm doing it myself, it doesn't. So then so that part of exercising has really improved.
Mm.
For me, yeah, that would be my biggest benefit. I'd say, I mean, I've never really been taught how to exercise, and so therefore, like a simple thing like even just simple things like a squat, right? If you're doing a squat, like now I'd feel like, you know what, like keeping your legs in the right position and even looking at which way your feet are facing is important, because that will determine which muscles you're using. So those are very critical. So those are things that I would transfer to the other things that I would do, right?
Mm.
Um, I'd say, especially with the feet and the hips and that sort of area. The other thing would be stretching, really. Like I think that I'd use this for stretching. Like
Mm.
a lot of, like especially some of the things that we have done, they're very
Isn't it
useful.
funny? Because sometimes you'll be like, I need this because it's going to help me like release and relax and stretch. But then by the same token, you could do the same exercise and stand up again and be like, wow, I just feel like I've done 50 squats.
Yeah, yeah, and
This
that's
is
what.
something that fascinates me all the time because I'm like, "Ah, isn't this wild?"
Yeah, especially those foot and ankle exercises, they kill me, right? And so that feels like a workout. Like I can't just do it in my work clothes. I have to actually change, right?
Yeah, the trembling.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a lot of effort.
yeah. So,
I'm really curious, and I'm always curious about this, not just for my business, but just generally. What would you say is your personality trait that makes you get the most out of a program like this?
ooh, I have no
Like
idea.
what made you say to yourself, I mean, because here's the thing, right? Like you said every time, so I'm tracking back to what you said. Every time you had a knee problem, you conventionally would see somebody who would look at just the location, the knee, or the knees in isolation, right? And at some point, what I'm trying to understand, was there some kind of a realization that there's got to be another way for me to fix this rather than just kind of following the advice of I've got to strengthen my knees? And I'm wondering what that is, what that curiosity point is, but also at what point did you say to yourself, I think this is the answer?
yeah,
Because
so
we'd never spoken before this. We'd never I mean, we've met the golf club so many times, but we've never actually had a discussion on
Yeah.
what posture therapy is. You never really knew my business. You've never known the program before we spoke. So I'm just like, well, yeah, dream client. But I'm still curious about, well, what's in his mind? What got him to understand that this is the bigger picture?
So I'd say, okay, I mean, I think this can answer that question. One is like just, of course, just trusting, right? Like first thing is that, like saying, well, okay, I had a call with you, but I also spoke to a couple of people, and then they say, I kind of say, well, if I'm going to try this out, I'll just trust it, and that's kind of the first thing I'd say. But I think the thing that sort of really answers that question about, let's say, my personality trait on why it works for me, right? And kind of sticking with it is two things. One is that I like, in a way, I don't want to let you down. Does that make sense? So because I know you, I kind of want to come online and I actually want to try this out. And if I've committed to it, then I want to try it out. That's kind of me anyway, right? So it's like I'll finish the program and I don't really want to sort of go in 2 weeks and then go, oh, that's it, right? I gave it my best. So the second would be like creating that social environment for me, right? So like I see people that I now know on the call, and I feel like I get on the call and I feel like there's a team environment, right? So it's coming back to my personality of not going to gym on my own. It's kind of like, okay, this is what I'm doing. That would be my easy wins. And then after that, when I see the changes that are happening to me, then they kind of have a self sort of boosting kind of effect on me, right? So I'd say the environment to create, like say if I had my knee problem before, that means I have to go to the physio or go to the gym myself, and then I have to do all these things that really require energy from me, and I don't really know what I'm doing either, right? So that means I have to go find someone else to go and do it with. And then
I want to hold you there. I want to stop you there because I think you've hit something for me on the head, which is how many times do we go to a specialist? They're working on us. We walk out of the clinic and we have no clue how to carry that on, whether it's location based, because I know location based still gives us some short term relief, but we're left in the dark, so to speak, which to some degree creates more frustration.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I think that's why I'm saying that the first thing that I trusted was the program, but also then the ability to say, well, it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever length it is, but it's like it'll be continuous, right? And so there's learning, whether it's online or not, there's learning through people. And I think that for me is a big connection, right? Because I've also done some exercises through apps, and that's worked for different reasons. Like I did this like 6-week program on an app, and it was really good fun. But it wasn't like interactive. It was just online, and you just get on and do it.
Yeah, you're kind of isolated.
Yeah. So I think that this the fact that you're teaching as well as other people are learning, and we're all kind of having a lengthier sort of time together, gives a lot of impact, because there you're learning, as opposed to just learning one day and then going away or whatever it would be, right? Or going to and they just work on you, and then that means you have to go to them all the time.
Yeah. And also I think is it helpful for you that even though everybody's getting the same homework, it's still individualized, it's still personal to your problems, your body, your issues, it's targeting your problems and helping you fix them piece by piece?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it comes back to the idea of saying you put the work in, you'll get something out of it, right?
Because I think I also find it quite challenging. Like, it's normal for somebody to come in with an inquiry and then they're like, okay, but I have a knee problem and she has a shoulder problem and we're both in the same group. How do you intend to like help her fix her problem and me fix mine? And to explain it to people is quite hard. But I think we covered that a little bit through the balance tests, through the posture audit, through me watching as somebody and helping them understand that shoulder and the knee, like in your case, the knees aren't the issue, they're not the issue.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't need to probably be fixing the knee, although it will get fixed in the process. It's not actually the issue. So we don't probably need to work directly on that part of the body.
Yeah, I agree that you kind of don't know how to explain that up front, but sorry. Hi, Nia.
Okay.
You're right. You're tired. Do I have Alison's lesson? No, and I am there. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say that.
Speaking of sons,
Yeah.
I know you said to me at the beginning of the program that one of your biggest incentives was to climb Killy with the boys.
Wow. I don't know if with the boy, but he wants to actually. But yeah. So yeah, climbing Killy is definitely one of my incentives. Like I'd say that would be the sort of the goal. Like I think a lot of my goals, in a sense, are all about just being more active anyway. And so whether I do Killy now or in 6 months' time, it doesn't matter to me. But I want to be able to be confident to say I'll get there and I won't have pain. I'll just maybe be stiff or I'll be whatever, but not. So that's my main.
Where was your mindset 6 months ago about that?
My mindset 6 months ago is I need to do something about my knees, and that's why I want to do it. But I didn't have a clue what I'd do, right? Whereas now I feel like I'm like in a journey where I feel like I can do something. So maybe a test would be to go and do a long hike, like like a 5-hour hike, and actually come down a hill as well and see how that feels as well.
Yeah. I can join you. I'd love to.
Yeah, so that's something that I definitely want to do. So unfortunately, Seema's just got, like last month or a few months ago, she kind of developed sciatica, right? And it was.
Well, when we had our connection call, it was still what she was basically most concerned about. So I'd say it's probably something that's probably been ongoing for about 6 months, no?
Probably actually, and it's impacting her walking. We used to go walking all the time, so she's kind of in a real kind of flux at the moment on this. So in a
maybe
way,
she should watch this. She should watch this chat to understand. Because I know, I mean, if you think about it, and I think we can actually use that as a segue to discuss the investment. Right? I think a lot of people are hesitant because it's a big investment. I call this, like an executive coaching program at the value that it is. I mean, in my business coaching, I've paid sort of like 5 figures for coaching. And when it comes to the body, when I say to people this is a 4-figure investment, they're a little bit kind of like they get a bit put off initially. And what I try to explain people, and from the sort of buyer's point of view, I really want you to help me sort of chat about this, but like, is if you put the calculation on, say, on an average of like 6 months, 6 to 8 months, of how many chiropractors, physios, or alternative sort of pain practitioners we see for a certain problem, I'm wondering whether the cost actually then starts to make sense. Because in this case, like you've said, you're probably getting like a long-term solution, not just for the problems that you're facing, but prevention for the long term. And I know Seema's objection or like hesitation was the price point, number one, but also the process maybe wasn't so clear for her as to like how a program like this could help her sciatica problem. And we're still getting to the same point, and it's probably the case with her as well, and for many other people with sciatica, particularly postnatal women, who is it's a completely different subject, but the sciatica is probably not the issue, right? So from the investment point of view, I'd really love to know what you think and how that's kind of like what realizations you've come to in the last like few months about it.
Good question. I think so from a price point, like I think for me, like after doing the program, you see the investment and you can feel that it's not something that is steep at all, right? And I think that you put in a lot of time into what you do. At the same time, there's a lot of time that's sort of put even out afterwards, like the questions that we ask, or even if I spoke to you on offline, it's not like it's sort of charged extra. So I don't think, but I think that that's something that I didn't know upfront, right? So the upfront, when I sort of, as I said to you, when I first sort of paid for it, I didn't know whether it would be worth it or not. It's more like, okay, well, I've got a friend that's going to do it. At the same time, I feel like I'll trust this and just go for it, right? And that's kind of and that's also my personality, whereas other people will try and weigh it all up, right?
And perhaps a little bit because you knew me.
Yeah, partly, and partly like I thought, well, my knees are worth it as well, in a sense, like, and then I did think about, well, 2 physio sessions of this or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And what I did think about, but it's very different. And that's the point I'm going to make, is that it's like, you're not really comparing apples with apples, but nor are you. The difference is that there is a marketplace for the other things, whereas there's no marketplace for this, right? So therefore, that's where it becomes a bit more of a, like, how do I compare and how do I work it out? Maybe the diagnosis is the same, or what you're treating is the same, but do you see what I mean? So if there were more people doing posture therapy, if that's what you want to call it, then we would be able to compare that, but there isn't, right? So it's a bit of a difficult situation where you're creating a market, and maybe your target is different in terms of what you're trying to achieve. It might be the same as what a physio might try to achieve, but they've got complete different ways of doing it, right?
Yeah. This is I feel like it's an education on aspects of your body that you would never taught before. Yeah. And once you learn it, it becomes so practical and easy to be able to, like you say, apply in your everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the difference, right? So like some people can pay a lot. Like you see, it's like vitamins and dealing with pain, right? So people won't pay much for vitamins, right? But when you are in pain, they'll pay a lot. Right? And this is normal business in many ways. It's like you have a pipe burst, people will pay a lot. But to actually just sort of say, well, I need to improve the way my pressure's working in the house, they won't do it. You get what I mean?
So is that more of a sort of reactive, proactive mindset, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. So people like me who are not in excruciating pain, right? Then you're like, well, this is kind of like a bit of a nice to have, let's go for it. Whereas someone else that sort of done everything they could and maybe coming in for their last bit of like tether, then they may pay more for it. You see what I mean? So it's kind of very difficult to say, how does that investment work? And it's just because of knowledge, really, nothing else. And it's kind of signal theory, right? So a signal is always, when there's a marketplace, it's easy to compare.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's very practical. I also think perhaps my level of pain and what I can endure is different to you. Like, so for me to wake up with even something like a stiff back now is just completely unnormal, right? It's not normal at all. So like even if I've done a handstand practice, played paddle, taught all day and sat at my desk, if I wake up the next day and I remotely start to feel like stiff shoulder or lower back is a bit off, for me now, that is not normal. So I'll know that there's something that needs to be done here in order for me not to regress and ignore it. But for somebody like you who developed, say, knee pain over the course of like 16 years, it almost inherently becomes part of your identity, right? And you develop this subconscious conversation with yourself like you used to do, which is, okay, Tuesdays is my rest day because I'm not going to be able to, I'm going to be hobbling. It's going to be hard for me. It's going to be a recovery day so that on Wednesday, Thursday, come Saturday when I go play golf, it's manageable, right? But you even said it yourself earlier. You said, I don't think like that anymore, right? So something that, for instance, was a pain point for you is something that you probably didn't put a mark on as I'm in pain, but you knew inherently that it was something that was bothering me. And you knew that it was something that you did not want to carry on into, later years.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, like, for example, like what I would say is that only after you enter the program do you understand the investment, right? And that's so then the only way that someone else may understand the investment is either having a very thorough discussion with you or some sort of practical, or a discussion with someone like me or someone else that has done it already, right?
Yeah,
I think that would be the two. And like, for example, I know I've had a lot of conversations with many people now, about this, right?
My brother
And
included.
yeah, so I think people were like, I mean, there are some people that I play golf with, and they're always skeptical, like, well, I can draw those lines and tell you that you've done better, right? And those guys are not the people that I'm going to talk to about it. But when people ask me, they're like, well, no. And even actually a week or two in, I'm not sure if people called you, but there were 2 or 3 people that were like, oh, give me Rachan's number. I gave them your number, and I said, look, just join quickly because we're only 1 week in. I don't think they did. Obviously, they've not come on, but there are about 5 or 6 people that I know that are already kind of like, oh gosh. And then even the guy that I was skiing with, you know him, Shritesh. You know Shritesh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, wow, this is actually like, because just by doing 2 exercises or 3 exercises.
Yeah, so talk me through that. I know we had a sort of chat prior to me starting this recording, but you said you'd wake up and you'd kind of just do a couple of exercises to prep yourself for the slopes.
Yeah, I was basically just doing the week's exercises without, if I didn't have the prop, I didn't do it, basically, right?
Yeah.
So there was the wall frog, there was the one where you I can't remember all the names, but
Static back.
Static back. There was also the one where you sit down, and it's like kind of a very good skiing one where you put a lot of pressure on your thighs.
Air bench.
Air bench.
Very good. Yeah.
Air bench.
I imagine you did your foot circles.
And foot circles, and then so those were all the ones. Those are the easy ones we could do without any equipment, and we had cushions and things there. So I was doing them the first morning, and then Shritesh was like, "What are you doing?" So he knows about it obviously, but he's like, "Oh, why don't you come and join me?" So he did it, and he could easily see, like, for example, his left ankle wasn't functioning as well as his right, and he was like, "Oh my god." And then he used to say, well, my hips are a problem. I'm like, okay. So when we did wall frog, he was like, bloody hell, I can feel it. And I'm like, yeah, that's all you have to do. Just sit there now. And then his legs were shaking. He was like, how is that working? And I'm like, yeah, well, this is what needs to happen. That's all. So you're doing it right, is what I told him. And, that's it. So, so in that way, it was like,
Amazing.
It was quite amazing. So he did it actually 3 days or something. He did them with me. And so,
in those 3 days, was there like noticeable difference for him?
I'm not sure. I'll ask him. But there's definitely noticeable difference in the way that he thinks, okay, maybe if he thinks that he wants to fix his hips or something, then he will definitely now reach out. Does that make sense? So like,
yeah.
I think
this is a classic case, right? Like he's probably thinking there's something wrong with his hips. And I bet my bottom dollar that it's probably got nothing to do with the hip. And it's literally that golden nugget that I almost feel like is probably what people need to understand is the critical difference between what we do in this space by understanding the root cause versus the location-based sort of approach that we are completely taught and what we're used to by the conventional methods.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think that's quite evident. Like, and I spoke to a guy in London. So he's like, okay, tell me more. I think you sent a detail. So what would be good actually? Like you've kind of got, I know you sent something with some incentive thing, and I kind of signed up to it. But what would be good is like, an easy WhatsApp flyer that just like someone can send and say, like, if someone asks me, I'll just go, here you go. So, like now, look it up and then call me, and then actually that's the way to do it.
And when you're talking to these people, because I think I've had high end, like multi 6-7 figure business coaches previously sign up to this program, and within the first 2 weeks they kind of start doing homework, start coming for calls. And what I recognize is when you have to do the work, when you have to show up for the calls, when you have to take time to learn your homework, because like we say, one of the principles in this framework is this is not a monkey see, monkey do. You're not going to traditionally see me in front of the class busting out some moves that you're going to just copy blindly, because the exercise sequence for you is going to vary for me and continuously for the rest of the class. And if we're trying to get you to treat that root cause, it's impossible for us to all follow the same routine. The exercises could be the same, but how we do them and in what sequence is going to change. And we know this by virtue of our weekly homework. So again, I'm curious, is it that you didn't know how much was going to be involved in terms of learning? Or are you just that type of learner where you're used to, just putting in a bit of time to watch a, say, 3-4 minute video and then practicing it yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a good, I mean, I don't know if I'm a learner like that, because like I have done different courses, and I prefer going somewhere, meeting, but I've also done some online courses. So I am one of those people that will carry on doing it, right? I do it. I have to admit that when I started, if you remember that, it was when my puppy passed away. So then I found it hard for me to kind of join.
Yeah,
But
find time, cut out time.
yeah, so 2 weeks I didn't do anything, and then I felt like, oh, I've got to catch up. But then I actually realized that you don't really need to catch up. You just need to just start, right? And so for me, I'd say that the two things are, one is that I do like kind of carrying on and trying to make sure that I carry on, and I'm not worried if I miss something. Whereas some people
Good.
have a personality trait that maybe they feel like they failed if they had not done 5 days or 6 days, and it's like, well, I don't kill myself over it. It's like if I've done one, which is what I've done this week, so I'm like,
Something
well,
is better than nothing.
yeah. And so my aim really is, for me, so my aim this morning was, I need to just learn everything before the call tomorrow, so that then in the call tomorrow I can perfect more of what I'm doing, right? So that's as simple as that. But I think that that's because I now know the structure, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel as like intimidated by it. But I think the second part is also having other people there that you kind of feel accountable to. I think that that's an important part for me, right? I like accountability through people.
And I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I'm probably gonna just keep this as my only program because of that single reason. I feel like the conversations, the revelations, the support, the accountability, and hearing, for instance, other people's challenges, other people's experiences on the screen when people are looking, and I pin your screen and they can see your leg shaking, they are convinced that this is working without me having to intercept and be like having to convince them to
Yeah.
keep going. You guys in that group are doing the talking. I'm literally just navigating the whole group. And all of a sudden, we found ourselves amongst people who we have common interests with. We would probably invite these people to a party. If we were going to host a party, we'd love to have these people over, because not only are we just on this particular journey together, but it's almost like we all want it for the same reasons, right?
Yeah.
None of us want to wake up feeling like shit. No, none of
Yeah.
us want to pass that sort of weakness or aspects of aging or that concept of defeat onto people that are around us, our children, our spouses, our mothers, fathers, whoever that is. But also energetically, I think we become a little bit contagious.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. So now I think that accountability is huge. Like for me, it's good because I see familiar faces. I see people that go, oh, you know what? And in some cases, I may be encouraging people to do something, or in some cases, I'm getting encouraged as well. So that's important.
Love that. Yay. Any other aspects that you've noticed this has had an impact on? Because I know we've talked about the physical aspects, but for me, I feel like obviously I say this is inside to out type sort of approach. We talked a bit about the breathing. We talked about how this has helped you improve sleep. Have you been able to sort of observe any other areas in your life, perhaps, that this is helping you
I'm not sure. I think I'd say just regularly doing something is quite a good thing to do, right? Like I think anyone who goes to the gym or plays sport every day or goes for a walk every day, I feel like they just their mindset's better. So for example, in between the two programs, I was partying a lot and I didn't do much exercise, right? But I know that I was still active, but I didn't do the daily exercise, which is what is different. So I think that for me to be able to say that where does it impact? It's like if I can do it daily, it just gives me a bit more routine, but also a bit more discipline.
there?
Right. So if I know
And
that,
have you, what I also I'm interested in knowing is, like, for instance, because I know having done your posture image compares from like when you started to now, you've lost so much weight. But also, I know that wasn't intentional necessarily, right? So like by virtue of it, I could be assuming.
No, as in I was trying to. So I was actually changed my diet. I changed everything, right? So that was kind of combination. So it was like good discipline, at least like, saying that I need to do this in the mornings or in the evenings. And I wasn't drinking and I wasn't, I was just eating better. So even in January, I did the same thing. So that's partly why you saw that as well. Actually, that was quite stark, because that was from September to, and in all of October, I didn't drink. I didn't do any other, like that was a conscious thing, but it was also helped with the fact that you were just more disciplined about everything, right?
Energy levels, good.
Yeah, and especially from diet, but also from this, it's kind of a combination, right?
Yeah.
Always active.
It can't just be. I don't believe it's just one component, but I do believe what we do to enable the body to be receptive is important, right? So then what you put into the body by virtue of both posture work, exercise, movement, as well as nutrition, as well as everything else matters. But if the body's not receptive, it probably won't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Cool. Well, any closing comments?
No, thank you very much. I'm learning a lot all the time. So that's important.
And the fact that the program's lifetime for that one investment, but also the fact that you don't have to necessarily only come for the calls for the cohort that you sign up, is that helpful?
Yeah, definitely. I'm finding the second call, the second set of, it's just actually more like I think I'm learning more, because the first time I feel like I'm just trying to keep up, whereas now I feel like, okay, well, I'm learning a lot more, and I'm learning, for example, like the connection between the upper body and the lower body. I'm also learning what if I'm feeling X, then what do I need to do that, to help that, right? Which I feel like first time around I was like more just following. So I feel like that's the good thing. I think that there's always something to learn, and I like the idea of kind of keeping on going.
Brilliant. Well, for me, I just want to say it's been an honor, and I love your spirit. I love your attention to detail. I love the shakes. I love your revelations. I love your energy. So yeah, very welcome in this community, because I think also for me, my work is a part of my life, and the fact that I can make it socially interactive is a game changer, because it never feels like a day of work.
Oh, that's really good. Well, thank you. I say that because it's really been good. It's been fun, and I've learned a lot, and I think a lot of people have heard about it from me as well. So it's good. That means I like it.
I mean, my brother just kept messaging. He's like, seriously, do you pay Sachin to talk about this program? I'm like, no, why? He's like, he's just constantly talking about it. And I said, well, if it works, obviously he's going to be talking about it. Oh, it's funny.
Someone's asking what's new, and I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this. They're like, oh, what is it about? And I was like, tell them a bit more, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then literally they'll tell me what's wrong with them, and I'm like, well, yeah, there you go. So
do you try and assess them? I'm really curious. So like, do you watch them walk? Do you stare at people when they walk now?
I used to do that all the time. I've just got better now. I used to be able to, and I'm like, I can't really watch now. I probably sat there looking at my walk, thinking, this guy has this.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, it's a radar. I can't switch it off. I'll be in a restaurant, and I'll be like, oh my god, why? Wow, why? How is he standing? And I wonder what's going on inside his body. But I mean, I have to be aware of it, because it can get annoying. Not for, obviously that person doesn't know what I'm looking at, and they don't know I'm looking at them. But like, imagine my other half. Every time we step out, he's like, "Can you stop staring at people?"
Yeah, it's quite irritating. I stop talking. Yeah.
Like even on the roads, I'll be running or walking or driving, and I can see somebody, and I'm like, anyway. But yeah, it's like I have to go out with like blinkers on.
Yeah. No, it's good though. It's good. I think you should spread the word as much as you can. I will anyway, if you don't.
Well, this is exactly what the conversation was about. It was not to put words in your mouth, not to sort of sit here. You know, this is the best thing since sliced bread, but it's more literally to share a happy conversation from somebody who has benefited lots from this entire framework.
Definitely, but it's good if other people can benefit from it.
And you think there's an age limit to when you can start working on your body?
No, I personally think that you'll get more people in their 40s than anywhere else, but my view is that hopefully people start working on it when they're 25, because that's where you can really make changes. But yeah, but I don't think there's an age limit. I think like my dad or my mom could do it. I think they'd enjoy it. Whether they want to is a different matter, right? But I think that's the way I look at it. But yeah, so I'm glad I'm doing it, and I'm glad, like, you know, like I feel like, let's see, like I think at the end of this program I'll see how I feel, because I feel like, you know, the real test would be that, do I keep this going forever? And that's kind of what I want to be able to do, but that's kind of the aim, right?
Yeah.
And
I reckon it will happen naturally. It will happen naturally, because once, like you said, you know, it's like picking up a new sport. It's like golf. Initially, you were like, oh, this is frustrating. But once you start breaking a few barriers and you start getting a little bit more fluid, you don't have to think about it so much. You can just get your mat out, you can get your equipment, and you can literally start with your balance test, know what part of the body to work on, pick an exercise, and be like, that felt great.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. I need to go.
Me too.
So tomorrow, are you able to do it a bit later than 11:45?
Yeah. Did you say 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock would be perfect, because then I need to send you some pictures as well today. And
I tell you what, we can. I could even just take the pictures online when we're in the session.
Fine.
So don't worry about that.
Because my intention was, I didn't have to go to work tomorrow, but now I do, and so I'd rather just go to work and then come back home, and then at least I can be in my gym gear